Well, today we're going to be looking at our area, but this time of composite figures. And composite figures is actually just a figure that might look odd, but it's just made up of simple geometric shapes. And that really is our definition. It's a figure made of simple geometric shapes. So when you look at that first one, that is not a normal triangle, rectangle, pentagon, hexagon. It is, though, what we call a composite figure because you can look at it and you can actually see different shapes made up into it. So if I go ahead and kind of put a little dotted line down here, well, there's a rectangle. If I put a little dotted line down here, there's another rectangle, and then another one over here. So that's actually 3 rectangles put in together to make that one composite figure. Same thing over here. If I went ahead and put a little dotted line, I see a triangle. Put a dotted line down here, I see a rectangle, and then I even see a half a circle over here. So those are what we call composite figures. So when we're trying to find the area of these composite figures, you're going to do what I just did and break it into those simple shapes. Break it into where we can see how many regular simple shapes there are. Then we can go ahead and find the areas of each of those shapes. So remember your base times height if it was a rectangle, or 1/2 the base times the height if it was a triangle, or half if it's a semicircle, half a circle, half the pi times radius times the radius. And then once I found the areas of all of those shapes, all I'd have to do is put them together to add or subtract the values. If there was something cut out, I would subtract it, but otherwise I would add those together. So let's go ahead and look at this example here. I'm giving you, obviously, a composite figure. That's not a normal shape that you think of. So we're going to look at this and we're going to break this into, just like we're talking about, shapes I do recognize. And if I went ahead and kind of drew a little line down like this, I would see a rectangle over here and I would see a triangle over here. Now I broke those into those simple geometric shapes. Step 2, though, I'm saying be careful. Don't just start to go get the area. Look and see if there's any side that might be missing that we could figure out. So let's go ahead and take a look at all of the sides I have. Yeah, for the base, I know 6, good. So I know that part is 6. So I know the base is there. That looks good. I know the height of that. So base times height, I should be able to figure out that nice rectangle. That looks good. For the triangle, I need to know the base. Oh, wait a minute. I don't know that base. Could I figure that out? Well, if that whole entire length is 7.5, how could I figure out what just that much is? Well, notice up on the top up here, this much is 6, which means this much continuing to go to get that 7.5, that must be 1.5 inches. So I was missing it, but I can figure that out. Same thing with this height that I need for my triangle. They don't give me that number, but I could figure that out because when I look over here, this entire side is 3. Well, they told me that this much is 1, so that must mean what's left over here, that has to be 2 inches. Now I actually have all the different measurements I need to start the next step, which is to find the area of those 2 shapes. So let's start with the rectangle, that parallelogram. Area is base times height. We've done that before. And the base of that rectangle is 6. And the height of that rectangle is 3. Well, 8 times 6 is or sorry, 6 times 3 is 18 inches squared. So I know this much is 18 square inches. So that's what we have so far. But I also have that triangle. And I told you the triangle area is, I wrote them for you on your notes, 1/2 the base times the height. So let's figure that one out. 1/2, now looking only at that triangle, the base we said was 1.5. And then we've got the height, which we found was 2. Now all I have to do is multiply those. And honestly, I can do 1/2 times 2. That's really easy. What's half of 2? Half of 2 is 1. So now I just have to do 1 times 1.5. Well, 1 times 1.5 is 1.5. So now I've got 1.5 inches squared for my triangle. So if I go ahead and take those 2 pieces that I just found out, the rectangle and the triangle, and I want to find the area of that whole entire composite figure, I'm going to take my 18 inches squared, the rectangle, add my 1.5 inches squared, my triangle, and when I put those together, I find out that whole entire composite figure has an area of 19.5 or 19.5 square inches. So we've been doing area. Composite figures just mean, again, that odd looking shape where we can break it into regular shapes for us, or not regular, I should say simple shapes for us, and then finding those areas and adding them together. So hopefully you took some notes on this. Bring your questions to class with you and we will keep working on it.